Hello, my name is Maya Balat, and today I will be presenting a PowerPoint about Miss Ida B. Wells Barnett and how she is an activist, a leader, a sociologist, a journalist, etc. Before I begin, I just want to give a little disclaimer that there will be graphic images regarding lynching and to prepare yourselves for that. So, this PowerPoint will be broken up into four different parts. The first part is an overview of Ida's life. The second part is her connection to Black feminist thought, which is told and explained through Patricia Hill Collins. And then there is the anti lynching campaign, which Ida is most well known for. And the last one is going to be how her influence has impacted activism today. So let's begin. So, an overview of Ida B. Wells Barnett's life. Ida began her adulthood at the early age of 16 after the loss of her parents. She started working in order to provide for her siblings and would travel 6 miles on a mule to and from. She eventually got a job as the school teacher in Memphis, Tennessee, in which they provided her with a good salary, so she was able to take care of her siblings. One day, when Ida was traveling to work on the train, a train conductor didn't collect her ticket, then later asked her to move to the smoker cart. Ida was confused for what reason she had to move to the smoker cart when she was where she needed to be, the ladies' cart. The conductor proceeded to try and physically remove her. She then bit him in self defense and went and called more men to get her to the smoker cart. It took 3 men to have young Ida removed from her seat, and then she proceeded to sue the train company. She was able to receive $300 for damages before a court cost, and this case was the first case in which a colored plaintiff in the South had appealed to a state court since the repeal of the Civil Rights Bill by the United States Supreme Court. For me, this is when I knew Ida B. Wells was a force to be reckoned with. Ida grew even more since that incident. She went on to writing several books, traveling for her work regarding lynchings, being invited to lectures and different events, founding the NAACP, forming clubs for Black women to educate one another, finding resources for Black men on the south side of Chicago, etc. Ida had a very successful career in which she paved the way for other scholars to learn from. Ada's connection to Black feminist thought. On the left here is a picture of Patricia Hill Collins, and Black feminist thought explained by her is ideas produced by Black women that clarify a standpoint of and for Black women. So, taking everyday experiences of Black women and pointing out the common themes of their experiences. Black feminist thought, the framework is based on the recognition that Black women's experiences are shaped by intersection of race, gender, and class. Black women have such disgusting narratives placed on them by whites of being loud, angry, and hypersexual, which some have tried to place on Ida. Black scholarly women developed the Black feminist thought for Black women and advanced what being a Black woman is through self definition and self valuation. So on the left here, we have Ida B. Wells with the family of Thomas Moss, who we'll be getting to later on in the PowerPoint. And then on the right, we have Ida older with her 4 children. And then a little bit about what self definition and self valuation is. Self definition is the challenging of stereotypes which were placed upon Black women to dehumanize them. Self valuation is taking back the meaning of Black women. Ida does this a lot from the minute she was 16 and had to provide for her family. Ida was smart, assertive, and driven. This what leads her to be a Black feminist in all areas she has worked in. Many lessons come from the Black feminist thought and Ida B. Wells Barnett. She used her platforms to vocalize social movements and made it accessible for people. She conducted justice focused research to measure the systematic oppression Blacks were experiencing. She went around the nation to collect information regarding lynchings to then publish a book about her findings. Ida continued to be the face for these lessons as she wasn't afraid of white people and cared for her community in a capacity that only Black women can understand. Ida's anti lynching campaign. So on the left here, we actually have a picture. It is of the grocery store Thomas Moss and his friends were working at and made for, the community. Ida was known for her numerous contributions for the Black community, but was most known for her anti-lynching campaigns. What started it for her was when her friend was running a successful business, Thomas Moss, and the whites did not like this and decided to brutally lynch him and others who ran it along with him. Lynching had always had been a problem before this, and Ida knew that, but now it became personal. So on the left here we have a picture of the Red Record. The Red Record was one of Ida's books in which she discussed the lynchings that were happening across the nation. She conducted research, compared stats, shared stories of Black people who experienced racist trials and hate crimes, and wrote a call to action at the end of the book. So on the left here we have a visual of a lynching of a Black man. And she named reasons for which whites were lynching these Black people in the first place: race riots, Negro domination, quote unquote, and Black men were raping white women. She would continue on to disprove these excuses and then on statistics. So the and like when I say reasons in the book, she's not really naming reasons. They're more of what society had perceived as reasons, but in fact were excuses made by white people. A statistic that stood out to me was in the year of 1892, 241 persons were lynched. Reasons are due to rape, murder, rioting, race prejudice, no cause given, incendiarism, robbery, assault and battery, attempted rape, suspected robbery, larceny, self-defense, insulting women, desperados, which I had not known prior meant recklessness or a reckless person, fraud, attempted murder, no offense even stated, and boy and girl. And boy and girl was just a boy and a little girl were lynched, and the reason is unknown. Ada realized that most of the men who were getting lynched was due to the false narrative that whites created that Black men were raping white women. This justified the disturbing actions white mobs felt were needed to be done in order to plant a fear that could never leave the Black person's mind. When it came to the relationship between Black men and white women, white society thought that the Black man deceived the white woman. The Black man was always the aggressor. Ada continues throughout the book to share stories of Black men who were falsely accused of different crimes. The story of Meredith Lewis, who was lynched by a white mob, even though he was proven innocent by an all white jury for the murder of a white woman. This is one of the many examples of innocent Black lives being taken. Ida also name drops multiple leaders and organizations for their racist outlooks on lynching and Black people as a whole. She mentions Miss Frances Willard and the Women's Christian Temperance Union and her lack of efforts to help those in the South. Seeing that it is a Christian organization, where was the good of faith they were supposed to have if they were following the teachings of the Bible? And in the Red Record, Ida firmly addressed Miss Willard and her attempt to attack Ida for her work, because although Ida was a woman, she was a Black woman. And so Miss Willard had some things to say about that, which Ida put to rest very accurately and very well respected in the way she did it. And then there was Ida's call to action in the Red Record. Ida ends her book by stating her call to action on how society can minimize the killings of Blacks in the South. She says that Blacks should be granted a fair trial, and for those reading the Red Record to inform others of what she stated throughout the book, to speak up to whites in the South and tell them of what is being done to innocent people. And then lastly, we have Ida's impact on activism today. And the organization I'm going to be talking about is Kenwood Oakland Community Organization. The COCO organization was formed in 1965 and is specialized in the south side of Chicago, specifically Bronzeville. They focus on organizing, social services, senior rights, youth investment, affordable housing, education, food pantries, summer jobs for the youth, etc. They talk about policy change and they develop leaders. They also like to teach the youth about relationship building. And something that the speaker had mentioned was you are less likely to harm someone you know. And that is the whole point of building a relationship with those in the community and outside of the community because you are less likely to harm someone you know. The University of Chicago bought up land and now owns homes and apartments that Southsiders cannot afford. And the COCA organization saw this. And one of their biggest victories regarding the situation is the 52 lots they were able to secure to be affordable. 30% of each lot has to be affordable. So this provided homes for those who cannot afford like an apartment anywhere else, or because the University of Chicago had taken up the lots that people needed to in order to live or get off the streets or just didn't have housing in general. And I think that is very important to mention how Ida had influenced, the people who may have started this organization in 1965 because she has been doing, community service and organizing for people since the minute she started her activism. And I think that is another reason why Ida is so well known as someone who wanted change. She always mentioned how her people came first, and by her people, black people. And I think that's why it goes without saying how she is one of a kind, and she is one of a kind in her field. She's one of a kind for black women and for black people as a whole. And that concludes my PowerPoint. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something from this. And I hope you can take what I said today and teach it to others, talk about it to others, and bring it up in conversations, just how Ida would if she was still here today. Thank you.